Round one. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry gamers.
Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to the 328th episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We are powered by ATEBIT.net and those sexy legends over at Audio Technica. Go upgrade your audio game today over at audiotechnica.com. I'm your extremely humble host, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan8bit. And joining me tonight on this Friday edition of the Hungry Gamers podcast, my podcast ride or die. You can find him on them socials at Jono himself. He's the Matt Damon to my Ben Affleck. Jono, Australia's finest. How the bloody hell are you?
I knew we were going for the Matt and Ben thing there, but yeah, very good. Just watched Air for the listeners out there. It is on Amazon after just leaving the cinema, which is pretty funny that it's just landed on the stream so quickly, but it's worth a watch. Completely
agree. Yeah, it is well worth your time. And the great thing is it's not hidden behind a paywall on Amazon either. So it's not a sort of pay and rent at home type of thing. It's just chuck it on and have a great old time about the origin story of Michael Jordan and Nike. It's great. Cast is good. Like you said, the soundtrack is a banger and it's just a good, very informative, very entertaining, about 2 hours, I think.
Yeah. Chris Tucker too.
Yeah.
Always good to see Chris Tucker.
Yeah. And one of the Wayans brothers randomly in there too. Yeah, great cast. But yeah, we're not here to talk about Air Jordans and other types of sneaker freaker mentality. We're here to talk about video games. And I guess we can start things off, as is tradition here on THG, and talk about what we've been doing over the past 7 days or so. Jono, tell me the things. What have you been doing, my friend?
As you know, I've been playing Jedi Survivor, finished that, did the spoiler cast with our friend Zach from News to Reviews, so 8-bit listeners can check that out on the feed if they haven't already.
It's a great listen. I've listened to it in full. It is very entertaining, especially the debate about whether it's Bode or Bodie. It is worth the price of admission alone just to hear that back and forth banter as you guys struggle over remembering the film title that is Point Break.
It's also, is it Break Point or Point Break? Yeah, we're having a rough time there with that one. But so you listened to the whole thing and you haven't finished the game yet. So I guess you just spoiled everything for yourself. Pretty much.
But you know, I'm a professional. I wanted to get that podcast out swiftly. You guys had it recorded on the Monday, I think, and it was out on the Tuesday.
It was.
Bam, bam, bam. Efficient.
You took one for the team. Much respect. So yeah, finished Jedi Survivor, put the lightsaber away, got out the Master Sword, and jumped into Tears of the Kingdom.
It's Tears, damn it!
I deeply regret tweeting out that because Gene Park from the Washington Post quote tweeted it, and then I had every random person on the internet thinking they were the first person to tell me that it's Tears, and if you play the game you'll see that, so just play the game and you'll realize that it's obviously Tears but it's also both because it's a double meaning. Okay, I'm sure that they did that intentionally, but yeah, I'm playing Zelda, which I guess makes me the 8-bit representative to talk about this game.
Yeah, you're the outlier amongst the three of us because neither myself nor Ali at time of recording have played a lick of Tears of the Kingdom, but JP, you've taken one for the team.
I have. I knew that I was going to play it because it's one of those releases that everyone's going to be talking about, and I liked Breath of the Wild. I played it a couple of years late because I was pretty late to the Switch, but I have pretty much not touched my Switch since Pokemon Sword and Shield, so I knew that was one of my New Year's 8-bit resolutions to play 2 games on the Switch, so I've played 1 now. I'm probably only 5 to 10 hours in, so still very much scratching the surface of Hyrule and the skies above, but loving it. It's definitely everything that people are saying. Does it run well? It runs.
I guess that's a relative term, right? Because that hardware in comparison to the current consoles and PC, it's night and day.
Yeah, and you lower your standards when it's Nintendo, let alone an art style that is stylized in the way that it is. It kind of gets away with it for me. I haven't been sitting there feeling like the frame rate needs to be more or that the draw distance needs to be more. You kind of just, I'm playing it in handheld half the time, and you don't really notice the same issues that you would if you were playing, Jedi Survivor on a massive screen and looking for all the drops from 60 to 40 frames per second or whatever people are upset about. So yeah, it's a great game. It's just probably the thing that I've enjoyed the most is the way that you can approach puzzles however you see fit. And sometimes it's like, I know this isn't the right way to do it, but I can't think of what else to do. So I'm just going to see if this works. And it didn't work, so I'll try again. And then you finally get there. You kind of MacGyver your way through the temple puzzles. And you're like, you might get to the end and be like, okay, now I'm going to look up the proper way to do it. And it's something way simpler that you just didn't realize was possible. And you go, okay. But looking around like the internet at what people are doing in this game is very overwhelming. I've had a hard time kind of psyching myself up to progress through the game and thinking like, am I going to get taught how to build these wild contraptions at some point? Or are these people just freaks of nature when it comes to using the mechanics and physics that the game has put in front of you? Because some of the stuff, as you would have seen, is just absolutely mental, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'm in the exact same mindset. Like you mentioned, sort of it's a little intimidating or a little bit daunting. Like maybe that's why I'm a little frozen and hesitant to jump into because I see so many amazing clips on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter of people within our circle or just the broader gaming community doing crazy things with all types of little mechanisms and devices and making things that can fly and drive and shoot fire out of penis-looking devices that they've made on statues. And like the world is your literal oyster in Tears of the Kingdom. And I love that, but I think because there is no pulling back of the reins to sort of get you back in line a little bit, like you can do whatever you please. And I think maybe that scares me a bit. I like a little bit of linearity. I like a bit of hand-holding occasionally. And because there's none of that in this game, I'm just like, oh, I don't know where to start. But I will eventually, just not today or tomorrow.
No, you've got much bigger and better fish to fry. Let's talk about what you've been playing.
Oh my God. I don't know about better fish or bigger fish. It's certainly a fish that I've been frying. It's like a dirty
fish.
Old carp.
Yeah.
If we're gonna sort of use a fish analogy here, like and anyone that's caught a carp in their life knows that you can't catch and release. You've got to kill the carp and then get rid of it however you see after that. But yeah, fish discussions aside, I have been working my way through Lord of the Rings Gollum, done by Daedalic Entertainment. I've been playing it on the Xbox. I am yet to finish the game. The game, from what I can see, runs about 13 hours from start to finish. I've put around 7 hours in, and that feels like it's 6.5 hours too much. Like, this game is not good. It is not good in any way, shape, or form. Like, I am such a fan of Tolkien. I'm such a fan of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and just that broader fantasy universe that he's created. And so I had a tiny sprinkling of optimism when this game was first announced. Also a sprinkling of confusion as to why this game was going to get made in the first place. And then leading up to release, and you see the trailers and the gameplay and the dev diaries where they're trying to sort of feign enthusiasm and hype behind this thing. And so my sail was full of holes and wet as it was sort of coming into port here. And yeah, got my hands on the game, was provided a key, thankfully, because if I paid for this game, I would be seeking a refund immediately. But it's dated, it's hollow. The voice work is weird and also super, super annoying. Gollum doing his Gollum noises and then also being in earshot of like orcs and stuff doing their orky noises. There's no sort of real depth of field with some of the sound at times. So it was just like this concussion like tone going through my ears of like, the precious and born precious. And it was just like over and over, and like, there's a lot of Precious references, obviously. That is Gollum's wheelhouse right there. But the game is not a good time. you spend the first half of the game in a very bland, dull, orc run mine area, and it's just the texture pops were constant, the frame rate was inconsistent, there was a lot of judder. And the fact that in this first half of the game, Gollum has like no abilities really. He's got a Smeagol sense, which makes me laugh hysterically that they've called it the Smeagol sense, where you tap L1 or LB and you can sort of, see paths and get a little bit of like a echoes. What's the word that bats?
Echolocation.
Echolocation, yeah. So it's got that sort of sense to it where you can sort of pop this button and get an idea of where you got to go. Because for the most part, in these 7 hours, I'm pretty much just like, go from there to here, maybe grab something or do something, rinse and repeat. There's no real change to the gameplay loop. You're cantering along, you can occasionally run a little faster, and then you're jumping and climbing around this very copy-paste repetitive environment. And it sucks, man. It is not good. Like, it's rated 40 on Metacritic, and I even feel that that's probably 10 to 15 too high. Like,
wow.
It is one of the worst games I've played in a good long while. And the fact that this game has come out in 2023, where it feels like it would look right at home on a PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I was going to be a little bit more generous and say PS3, but you know.
Maybe I'm a little harsh because I'm a little sensitive here because, Gollum has taken my time away this week and I want it back, you little bastard.
It looks like, a PC game from 2007 or something. Like it, I can't believe the character model look like for the hero of the game that they could have put all that extra effort into, because you're going to be looking at him for the duration of the whole game, and he still looks terrible, like by modern standards.
Yeah, the character model of Gollum, especially like you mentioned, JP, the fact that he's the hero, the anti-hero, the villain, however you want to classify this character as, he is who you are seeing through your entirety of the playthrough, and the model is just really lacking. And I know the character model that we've seen translated to film and things like that now isn't overly detailed, but it feels like a step behind from the CGI that Peter Jackson and co did decades ago.
It's been 22 years since the first movie. 20 years since the Two Towers that he was in. Like, that's ridiculous. Like we know artists in 3D modeling who could do that. You think they could probably do that in like a couple of days or something. Yeah,
it feels like they were just given, this game has to come out by, the back end of May. No ifs or buts, Daedalic Entertainment. That's it. That's when your funding is running out to have it done by that time. So whatever you get done by then, that's it. Pens down. So the game came out. I don't really know Daedalic Entertainment. I haven't really existed in their broader portfolio before, so I can't say if this is sort of an outlier or consistent with what they've brought out in the past. But the game itself just is so lacking, and it's so dated in just some of the concepts. Like the game, there's moments where you're just going from cutscene to cutscene where you'll have a pretty low rendered cutscene, and then it'll shift into another one, like a brief loading screen into another one. You'll do a small animation or a small pull this lever cutscene, do something else cutscene. So it's really jarring, where super stop-start, super antiquated and nostalgic for all the wrong reasons. It feels like a game from decades ago, and not in a positive way. Like it is, it's rough. The design of the game is so poor. The graphics, very rough. The source material, like they could have done some cool stuff as far as fleshing out this story, but like I just didn't find myself caring. Like I love the films, love the books, got all the books, got all the films. But yeah, this game was just hurting me with every minute that ticked by, and I'm like, no, I'm done. I feel I gave it too much time.
Yeah,
and I'm done.
You definitely did. I can't. Life's too short to play bad games, and you've put like almost a full day into it, like 7 hours. The thing that baffles me is that there's not a ton of Middle Earth, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings games out there. Like, there's a couple big AAA ones. There's a couple probably smaller like strategy games or stuff that probably goes under the radar. But to get a game from, the Tolkien estate or whatever, whoever owns the rights to that, it's not I wouldn't think that it's an easy thing to get. Otherwise, we would see, Ubisoft or Take-Two or someone grabbing onto that and pumping out some solid titles. So for this smaller studio to just get it and crap it out with this turd is just really bizarre. It's almost like there must be a story behind this that Jason Schreier is going to have to dig into how this game came about just to get that deal across the line for this game to exist. It's almost like, when they used to crap out those movies to retain the IP of Fantastic Four or whatever it is. And it makes me think is there something like that going on here?
I think you could be very much on the money, and it might not come out in the wash for months or years to come yet, as far as, how did Lord of the Rings, Gollum come to be? Because we were really spoiled with what Warner Brothers did with, Shadow of Mordor in 2014 and then the sequel, where the Nemesis system is one of the greatest new game mechanics that's been introduced in the last decade. It's annoying that they've patented that. Very smart of them to patent it as well. But those games were so good. And then we get this turd of a game in Gollum, which is so bad. So we've gone from the highs and highs of book/film adaptations to gaming, and then we've gone to the low point with Gollum, and I feel a little dirty. I feel like I feel like I might not resemble Gollum on the outside right now, but internally I feel that way. I feel very broken, and I'm fighting with split personalities where I've got Gollum and Smeagol warring with my brain as far as what have I done? I've done a good thing because I played this code, but then I've done a bad thing because I've wasted the time, and I don't like being in this position, JP.
No,
help me.
It's not good. I release you, Brendan.
Thank you. Yeah, throw this game into Mount Doom, please. Burn this game out of my brain so I cannot play it ever again. But I would not recommend this to even the mightiest of Tolkien or Lord of the Rings fans, unless you find a copy free somewhere. You trip over one coming home from work, or you're just a sadist.
It'll be $5 on the PlayStation Store within a matter of months, I'm sure.
Yeah, something like that would be the only way I'd recommend giving it a go. And even then, I'm like, don't be as forgiving as I was. And if you're having a hard time after an hour, put it down and play anything else.
Is it a full price release, or is it a $50?
A full price.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you could get the JB Hi-Fi for $79 or whatever, but
wow.
it's still the ticketed $100 here in Australia for a game that is anything but worth full price. And it's funny because we're going from talking about a full price game to a game that I stumbled upon by chance on the Xbox store called Omega Strikers, which I've never ever heard about. It came out in September of 2022. And what it is in essence is a 3v3 soccer game, which is cross-platform. So you can play with PC, PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox players. And the characters, they're anime, Japanese in aesthetic. Really, so it's ticking my boxes straight away. I'm like, the weeb in me was like, yes, it's free, cross-platform. It plays really well. All the characters have different abilities and play styles. They've got hero abilities and perks. They've all got very different aesthetics and looks. They're voiced as well, so you're getting some voice work from the characters. And the fact it's free, it's not bad. It's not going to win any Game of the Year awards, but for a free game that was just good, mindless fun, where I was running around kicking goals and kicking ass, I'm like, you know what? This is great in comparison to what I've just dealt with Lord of the Rings Gollum. So I stumbled upon Omega Strikers by chance, and it's just fun and enjoyable.
So it's free to play, or it's
free
on
to
Game
play.
Pass? Okay,
free to play.
Yeah, cool. It's
free to play on everything.
Switch. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it looks up your alley as far as the weebishness of it. It's, as long as it runs well. And is it are you playing online against other people?
Yeah. So you can choose to play against other people, or if you wanted to play against bot lobbies, you can do so as well. There's a full competitive ranked mode in there. There's casual modes in there. And it's pretty in-depth. As is tradition with these free-to-play games, there's a battle pass where you can work your way through and unlock things or pay for different characters, different skins, different emotes. So there's ways for them to get some cash out of you as well, but it's just good fun. Stumbled across it by chance. Never heard of it before, but I'm like, oh, okay, a bit of a sports game with a bit of anime flair to it. You have my attention. And then I played a game and I'm like, you have my attention a little more. And then I played a few more games and started ranking up. And I'm like, this is really enjoyable. It's good, dumb fun. Like, if anyone's played Mario Strikers on the Switch, this is an easy comp. It's exactly like that, but replace that Nintendo roster with a bunch of generic anime-looking characters with unique abilities, and that's what Omega Strikers is. And yeah, super fun, man. Really fun. Download it. We can play together. We can kick this disc-like soccer ball around and have a great old time.
Yeah. It's only got 4 reviews, but Metacritic Metascore 79. So
There you go.
yeah. Yep, it's not bad.
Omega
And it
Strikers.
came out about 30 days ago. So
Okay. Yeah, well, it was released last year on PC in September of 2022. So yeah, it's been out for a little, from what I
maybe that
understand.
was early access because it says here April 27.
All right, there you go.
Anyway,
I'm wrong, but the game is right. It's a good time. It's good fun. So yeah, Omega Strikers by Odyssey Interactive. Really fun, really good pick up and play game, free. So it's checking all the boxes.
I'm sure if people out there jump into the 8-bit Discord, they'll be able to find you for a game sometime as well.
Hit me up. I think it's going to be like in between my games of Fortnite as far as just a quick time killer. Omega Strikers could be that, because games are over within 5-10 minutes, super quick to get in, super quick to score some goals, have some fun, create some chaos, and then get out and go about the rest of your day.
Very good.
And once you're done going about the rest of your day from a couple of swift strikes in Omega Strikers, you can head on over to videogamesandculture.com, which is the place for all things 8-bit. And if you wanted to get some merchandise on your person, you can do so over at shop8bit.net. Be sure to check out all our other podcasts residing on that website as well, and chuck some ratings and reviews and subscriptions on all of those podcasts, because they keep the emotional lights on in our hearts. They keep us tracking, keep us charting, keep us relevant. And it's just a good deed, you know. Get some good karma. Pay it forward. Takes no time, costs no money. Means the world to podcasters like ourselves. And once you're done, rating and reviewing those 8-bit podcasts. Do the same with all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular, because it's just a good thing. And people like good things. And positive karma. Pay it forward. Do the right thing out there, people. Be better. Once you're done being better, head on over to japancrate.com to be even better again. And use code 8bit15 at checkout to get yourself a tasty discount and free shipping on a monthly subscription crate full of Japanese snacks and knickknacks from japancrate.com. But JP, let's get into this.
This week's news headlines.
First bit of news. Pieces Interactive's reboot of the popular horror game Alone in the Dark is coming along quite nicely, shaping up to one of the most exciting horror titles of 2023. The game features a captivating mystery storyline, a unique interbellum setting, and focuses more on creating a sense of creeping dread rather than bombastic action. The developers have reassured fans recently that they understand and respect the original game, and even announced the involvement of Hollywood actors David Harbour and Jodie Comer. A standalone prologue chapter called Grace in the Dark is currently available to download right now on Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X/S, which is serving as a prequel to the main story. Alone in the Dark is scheduled for release on October the 25th. So JP, this prequel, this Grace in the Dark, is what you and I played at PAX last year. So we got to experience this 6-ish months ago, had a great time with it, really set the tone, got me hyped for Alone in the Dark when it's dropping on 25th of October. And now knowing that you get to play as David Harbour and or Jodie Comer, like, take my money, Pieces Interactive. Two of my favorite people in the acting game jumping into the video game.
So we know David Harbour from, obviously, Stranger Things, amongst some other big things. Where do we know Jodie from?
Killing Eve is the main thing I know Jodie Comer from.
Because I don't know her at all.
Oh, you don't?
Well, I've never watched Killing Eve, so where else would I know it from?
You need to add that to your list immediately. So Jodie Comer plays a European spy, and it is really, really European assassin. Sorry, not a spy. It is so good. Let
me see. Where can I watch it?
It's on SBS and Stan, I think.
All right, I will add that. Yeah, it's on Stan and iView. 4 seasons on Stan. Okay.
Yeah. So it's finished now. The 4th season was the final season.
Yep, it's the one with Sandra Oh.
Yes.
I remember seeing some stuff about this. So
So Sandra Oh works for like MI6, and she's trying to hunt down Jodie Comer, who is one of the most famous or infamous assassins in the world. It's so good, and Jodie Comer, I love her. Like, I will die for her, and I'm excited to play as her, with her, in Alone in the Dark.
Yes, I'm sure you are. Yeah, I'm a big David Harbour fan. I think he's fantastic, from the Newsroom to obviously, Stranger Things. Haven't watched the Hellboy movie, but
it was okay in parts, really bad in others.
And then he's doing the whole Gran Turismo thing, isn't he?
Yeah, and he was, I'm blanking on his name now, but he was the Russian superhero in Black Widow, and he's going to be in what's the anti-hero group that he's going to be part of with, oh my god, it's Friday night, it's late.
Are we talking MCU?
Yeah, in the MCU.
Okay. He's going to be in the MCU more. Just say that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, he's great. I love him, and he seems like he would bring a real just solid performance to a game that probably really is going to rely on the acting and the performance capture more than what the original would have, I'm guessing. I haven't played the original, but I did play that slice at PAX, this Grace in the Dark prologue, and it was very cinematic's probably one of the words that I would use. What do you think?
I think so. Like, there wasn't a ton of depth to the demo, but it really just helped.
It was atmospheric. It was very atmospheric.
Atmospheric's the perfect way to describe it. Like, it set the tone as to what to expect with Alone in the Dark when it comes out in October. It had just the right amount of eeriness and dread, and taking it back to sort of the time period where the game is. It's like set in like the 1920s, so it's got a little bit of a different vibe to a lot of the other survival horror games that we've gotten used to over the last few years. So it's really great. It's got like a jazz soundtrack that accompanies it as well, which adds all kinds of different eeriness and quirkiness and whimsicalness depending on the scene. So yeah, I'm hyped for this. I'm not going to replay the prologue again because I got a good experience at that. You and I both managed to finish it during our sort of time playthrough at PAX last year, but I'm looking forward to playing the full game come October.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a shot. You know, I'm not a massive horror guy, but it's the year for that with RE4 and Dead Space and Alone in the Dark.
Hell yeah. And I was thinking of the Thunderbolts, JP. So the Thunderbolts movie coming out in July of 2024 with Baron Zemo, Ghost, Abomination, etc., etc. So
not
he's
to
part
be
of that
confused
team.
with Thundercats.
No, definitely don't confuse it with Thundercats. There's none of that happening here. But something that is happening here is Bungie adding some cool new items that can be purchased via way of their Eververse store, all themed around iconic PlayStation franchises, just as Season of the Deep begins. Now's your chance if you've ever wanted to turn your Titan Hunter or Warlock into Kratos from God of War, Aloy from Horizon, or Jin from Ghost of Tsushima. Titans can also take on the iconic red markings of Kratos, while Hunters get Aloy's skirt, and Warlocks can don the samurai armor. Even your Ghost can grow some cordyceps with a skin inspired by The Last of Us. While these are obviously the result of PlayStation's $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie, the skins will be available across all platforms. So you can bring a Kratos-inspired skin into your Xbox instance of Destiny 2. It's cool. I love this.
They look really rad. Like, I'm not a Destiny player. Shout out to Miss Ali Hart, who we haven't mentioned yet, but come back soon. The skins look like they fit in that world. They don't look out of place, or like it's not just like a Fortnite style kind of like throw them in there and let them clash however they want to clash with everything else. They look like Guardians. They just look like really cool variants, basically.
I agree. They look like they should exist in this world. They haven't just been shoehorned in as a cash grab, and they all look great. I'm very excited to pick up this Kratos skin from my Titan, and also the Cordyceps inspired Ghost skin, because I think that the Cordyceps Ghost skin is my favorite out of a lot of them. It looks so great. Just some cute little features there with the fungus growing off it. It's weird, but it's just
so
phenomenal.
Weird because the Ghost, from what I gather, is like basically a droid, right? It's like so to have some kind of organic growth coming off it just seems so bizarre.
You're a bit of a virgin when it comes to Destiny, and the variety in the ghost skins. Yes, they do not make a lot of sense all the time, but they're there. Like I had my little ghost was wearing a cowboy hat for a good long while.
Okay,
just because.
Yeah. Okay, I'll allow it.
Yeah. But no, this is cool. Like more collabs like this across platforms. Like I love when we can see the rival companies, whether it be forcibly or just by war of attrition, playing nice here. But it's cool to see that we're getting some bleed over from some tentpole PlayStation titles making their way to PC and Xbox via way of these little skins and nods to those IP.
Do you think that it's almost a sneaky little way to promote their games on those other platforms, though, rather than allowing those platforms to have access to their IP?
A little bit. Like it is sort of like, it feels like it's a bit of bait, right? Where a core devout Xbox player that maybe has never played a PlayStation before or played a recent PlayStation or one of these IP, and they keep seeing this awesome Kratos skin or this awesome Aloy hunter running around. They're like, ooh, okay. And then they go down that rabbit hole and then bam, Sony's got you. And they're buying a PlayStation 5, buying a copy of Horizon, and they're in.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it's very, very stealth marketing. It's fantastic, but everybody wins because it's great. And something that's great to a degree, I guess we could say. Don't want to bury the lead here, but we're going to end the news cycle here by recapping the 2023 PlayStation Showcase that has aired over the last 24 hours-ish. And it was the first dedicated PlayStation Showcase we've seen in well over 12 months. So the expectations were very high. This was announced out of nowhere about a week ago, so there wasn't really much lead up to it. I didn't really see anything spoilt on the internet either. I didn't see any trailers leaking early, so that's also a nice thing.
Rare.
Very, very, very rare. But we got a ton of reveals. We're going to go through the first part of this sort of article breakdown here, just almost like bullet point, highlighting a lot of the, we're not going to say lesser known reveals because all the reveals and announcements and trailers were great, but we'll just sort of give these ones a little bit of focus and then a bit more focus on the ones that really excited myself and yourself, Jono. Yeah. So jump in here wherever you see fit if you wanted to add a little bit of weight as we work our way through here. And the first one we're going to highlight is, Assassin's Creed Mirage has gotten an October release date. It's very much going back to its roots. It's simplifying the formula. It feels like it's very much a bit of a nod to Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, where we're getting to play Basim, who we've been encountering over the last few games as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's one that's the series, because there's so much Assassin's Creed stuff coming out on a variety of platforms. It's kind of off my radar, which is bizarre because you and I both really played a lot of Valhalla. So this one could suck me back into that world again quite easily, I think. But I'm not necessarily hyped for it. But seeing they actually showed gameplay, which is one of the only...
Which was rare with this showcase.
Yeah,
that was one of my notes. I'm like, maybe 30% of the games got gameplay. The rest of it was just cinematic trailers.
Yeah, it was sparse, but we did get to see some gameplay, and it did have HD remake of the original kind of vibes, because it is more of that Middle Eastern setting. I think it's based in Iraq, or what's known as Iraq now. I'm excited to see whether they make that a more streamlined. It sounds like...
Yeah, they said it's going to be a lot smaller in scope, so which is good, because that's one of the main criticisms that the last few Assassin's Creed games have got, where it's too big. There's too much to do.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I was a bit harsh with my notes as I was taking, as I rewatched the showcase this evening, and I wrote Assassin's Creed Mirage. So sorry about that. But I will still play it come October. Yeah. The next one, we got a cinematic trailer for Jade Raymond's Haven Studio, which revealed their game called Fair Games. And that S on the end is with a $sign, because why not? And it is a competitive heist experience coming to the PlayStation 5 and PC. The trailer looked very pretty. I was impressed by it, and it was the first trailer we got. This was the first cab off the rank as far as the showcase goes. And yeah, the trailer looked super slick. It had a good look and sound to it, but without seeing any gameplay, it's I don't know. I'm going to reserve any judgment until then.
Is it? Yeah. Do we know if it's like even a first-person shooter or a third-person? I guess
No idea.
Could be a real-time strategy game for all we know. But I imagine it's going to be like Payday kind of vibes, maybe a AAA version of Payday 2, which would probably be very welcome because, you know, I always see Payday 2 on sale. I think a lot of people have probably bought that over the years. I wouldn't be surprised if it had notched up quite a few sales in that time. And Haven, this is the first game they've released since PlayStation acquired them a couple of years ago, I think. So big deal for them to reveal this today, I think, or not today,
and big deal for them to lead this showcase off. I thought that was a big power play, or a good sign of faith from Sony towards what Haven have got cooking there with Fair Games. The next one, this one I got really interested and excited about, was Phantom Blade Zero, which is a new hack and slash RPG that is coming out in the very near future. It's of all like the 25 trailers that were shown, this was one of the ones that stood out the most for me. At first, I'm like, oh my God, another Souls-like. Do we need this? But then as more of the combat started to take place, because this was all gameplay. This was all gameplay, and you're learning and seeing this. The protagonist you're handling is an assassin called Soul, who's been framed for murder, and he's been mortally wounded, but Soul's life was saved by some magic. But he's only got 66 days to right the wrongs and potentially live on or do whatever he needs to do. But I love that there is martial arts and sword and melee-based combat set in this sort of steampunk version of China, where we're getting martial arts and sword play, but also awesome steampunky arm weaponry and cannons and stuff going on. Like, it just looked really, really cool. And the combat and the movement looked really smooth. And yeah, I've definitely got my eye on this game. I'm pretty excited to see what happens with Phantom Blade Zero, because it was a little bit of a sleeper hit for me from this showcase.
Yeah, it's not something I think anyone had on their radar, so it was cool to see something new. And it is one of those games that it's very hard to tell whether it's going to be good. Like it could go either way, but if they can pull off what it looks like they're trying to do, I think it could be very popular. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know much about what are they called? S-Game, the studio behind it. They seem like a bit of a new upstart, and there's not a ton on their website and on their subreddit. But if this is what's going to be coming out when this game eventually drops, I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Take my cash. But I'm hoping it doesn't just lean purely into Souls-like sort of genre and maybe just has a little bit more actiony hack and slash, just a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, it looks more hacky.
Yeah, which I'm very excited for. Something else I'm excited for, Jono, Ghost Runner 2 getting announced. The trailer for this one, another cinematic trailer, but it looked good, and it just made me think maybe I should go back and play Ghost Runner, because I'm yet to play the first one, but this trailer piqued my interest.
Yeah, I only downloaded it on PS Plus and played it for like 20 minutes, the first one. I've heard it's good, though, and it's not a knock against the game. I think I just wasn't in the mood for it. But it's a very like momentum-based kind of gameplay where you kind of have to go for that perfect run across a sequence to get through. So yeah, people seem hyped for it, and they didn't show gameplay, but we know what the first one was like, so I imagine it's a slightly shinier version of it.
Yeah, I think so. I'm very, very interested in that. Yeah, I think I need to go back and play a bit of Ghost Runner to feel that out. Then we got a trailer for the Talos Principle 2, which is coming later this year. The trailer looked nice. I wasn't completely sure what was going on. I've got no real skin in the game with this franchise, but I'm like, yeah, the trailer was fine.
It's very popular amongst fans of puzzle genre. I've played the Talos Principle a little bit because I'm working on a puzzle game, and I was kind of like just sussing out, a bit of inspiration as far as gameplay, and not that I'm a gameplay developer or programmer or anything, but yeah, it's a cool it's a very it's not The Witness, but it is very atmospheric in this strange place with some interesting lore and kind of mystery to it. So I think this one, it's more niche because it's puzzle but it is it's going to do well, and it was kind of under the radar exclusive as well.
Yeah, no, the trailer certainly made me raise an eyebrow in a good way. It looked very pretty. The next one, Foam Stars, which was actually the second piece of gameplay, if we include the very brief Cat Pirate game trailer that happened for a split second before that. But this was the 11th trailer of the showcase where we got some gameplay. And yeah, Foam Stars, which is a Splatoon-like shooter coming from Square Enix. My notes, I wrote like grown-up Splatoon, will Nintendo sue ? Because yeah, it certainly was copying off its homework, but the world looked great. It was bright and vibrant. The characters looked very unique. It's got that, anime aesthetic again, which just, gets me going. The gameplay looks super dumb, super fun, but looks like it could be enjoyable with some friends. And I think I'm going to play it. I reckon this would be very much an Allie game too. She loves her Splatoon. She'd be down to play a bit of Foam Stars. What about you, JP? You in? You going to join our foam party?
What do you think? Nah, I'm not feeling this. I definitely scrubbed through this trailer as soon as I saw what it was. Square Enix is capable of so much, and to just rip off Splatoon with an anime version of it. It's not even like an original art style. I was like, okay, some boardroom exec played, or their kid played Splatoon, and they said, let's make one of these for an adult audience, and kind of defeats the purpose, I think. But part of the appeal of Splatoon is that fun, cutesy art style, and that it's accessible to probably a range of gamers, including young children. So
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, grown-up Splatoon, I'm in. Take my money. If I can play a cute anime girl and foam all over everybody, I'm down. Down. Something else I'm down for, and I still don't understand what in God's name is happening in this world, but we got another juicy trailer ahead of next month's launch for Final Fantasy 16. A lot of big moments, a lot of epic battles. We had some crazy summon battles going on here. I still have got no clue who's who, who's good, who's bad, what's happening in this world. But the word that I'd summarize this trailer and this game for leading up to the release on June 22nd is epic. It's just big and bold and I'm keen as a bean, even though I know nothing as to what's happening.
Yeah, I haven't really been excited for Final Fantasy 16 just because I look at all the trailers and I'm just like, it's just not the Final Fantasy that I grew up with, and I know I'm going to sound like a
old curmudgeon
boomer or something, but if I look at it and don't think of it as a Final Fantasy game, it's probably fine. It's just, it's kind of like people watching Transformers movies and being like, this isn't the cartoon that I watched when I was a kid.
That one cuts me deep, JP. I feel that way every time I watch these live action movies. Apart from Bumblebee, which is great, the rest of them...
Yeah. It's just, you have to kind of separate it in your head as a separate thing. So I'm sure it will be a great modern JRPG as long as I just don't go into it wanting all the trappings of Final Fantasy that I loved as a younger gamer.
Do you think it needs more or less chaos?
Oh, man. I might have to play this game in Japanese.
All right, the next announcement we're going to focus here is that PlayStation have announced a dedicated game streaming device, currently codenamed Project Q, that will allow players to stream any game from their PlayStation 5 console using remote play over Wi-Fi to this little 8-inch screen that has, I guess you could say, deconstructed DualSense on either side. It's got all the DualSense functionality, the haptic feedback, the responsive triggers, etc., etc., but just with an 8-inch screen wedged in between. And JP, like, this thing is not for me. This thing is so dumb. And it feels like it just doesn't know what, like, we were talking, and I saw on socials as well, like, you were talking about, like, that we can do this with a smartphone and a backbone already. Instead, they're going to bring out Project Q. And I can only imagine how this thing might be the same price of a PlayStation 5. I worry. Because an 8-inch, like, full HD screen on this sucker with that smart controller technology in there as well, it's not going to be a cheap little device.
Yeah, you think about the DualSense in and of itself, it's or $110. So it's probably looking at, I don't know, $250, $300. Do you reckon?
Yeah, I was going to say between $300 and $400, and you add another few hundred onto that, and you got yourself a discless PlayStation 5. So like,
yeah, it's a weird one to me because PlayStation just did this partnership with Backbone to release a PlayStation branded Backbone controller. Obviously, it requires a phone to go into the device, and that means you don't have your phone while you're using it. So that's one of the drawbacks. But yeah, they just promoted this, and because there's a new Android version after having the iOS version on the market for a while. So I was just surprised that they bothered to make that partnership when they were in the same week going to turn around and go, and here's our version, which it does have a bigger screen. It's even bigger than the Switch from
8 inch. Like that's a lot of surface area. Like it's going to feel good playing on that. But like the only way I see this thing being appealing, like, is if, you know, you're at home right now and your partner wants to be watching something on the television that your PlayStation is connected to, and so you can just whip out your Project Q and be there beside her. She can watch her stories, you can play your stories and live in harmony. Like that's the only logic for me. Like, because the Backbone, I've got one, you've got one. Like you buy them at a fraction of the price.
Yeah. And
the resolution on a smartphone is going to be higher than the resolution on this Project Q anyway. So it's like, what way do you want to go here? I don't understand. This is a weird one from me.
Yeah.
For Sony.
There's a bunch of options on the market for this kind of thing. Like it's not just the Backbone, but if you've got something like that already, which we do, I just don't know why you'd go and get another piece of kit when it's going to come with a high price from being the official product. You'll get the haptics from the DualSense, and that's great, I think. But yeah, it's just another thing for me to keep away from my kid.
yeah, and like I just pre-ordered my ROG Ally the other day, and it's like, you know, maybe I can just stream my PlayStation game directly to this and not ever have to buy a Project Q, because I love that it's got all the smarts and the creativity that's in the DualSense, but yeah, I think this is going to be a premium price device that's going to really cost itself out of the market really quickly.
We shall see.
We shall. And another piece of tech that Sony announced is simply known as the PlayStation earbuds. Their new true wireless in-ears, and they're going to offer lossless, low latency audio on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Sony is also saying that it has achieved this via a new, in quotes, wireless technology, which is admittedly vague. However, it assures us that these buds will provide outstanding sound quality while gaming. So going away from the stereotypical gaming headsets, the big bulky over-ear cups, to a more sort of sleek in-ear variant. They look really nice, and knowing the quality that Sony have done with their more professional consumer audio products gives me hope that these will be really, really impressive. No doubt they'll probably be at a premier price point again as well, but I like having this option to just chuck some in-ears and play on my PlayStation. I'll still just naturally lean to grabbing my AT headset and playing with that because they're the best in audio and gaming-based equipment, but these PlayStation earbuds, they look nice. They come in a nice little slick case. The fact that you can connect them between your PlayStation 5, your PC, and I'm assuming to your smartphone, so you could use these as your general sort of daily streetwear buds as well. Really cool, but yeah, I'd say they're going to be coming with a not so cool price point.
Yeah, I mean, outside of PlayStation, you could say that Sony is known for its audio equipment and gear over the years. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense for them to have a premium, you know, earbud on the market. The price, it'll be curious as to whether they go for like middle, like the gold headset that they've had, or, you know, over the years, the PlayStation official headphones have been kind of that mid-level, like not high end but not dirt cheap option. So I think it'll probably be a similar spot that it'll sit.
Yeah, I feel these might be in and around $299 to $399 AUD, because they look like a expensive bit of kit, and I mean that in a good way. They look like they're going to be a quality audio accompaniment for your gaming and just your day-to-day. So this is cool. I like that we're getting more of this and getting away from the hard, cheap, shitty plastic headsets that most of these gaming companies have been making for years. Like, it's nice to see consumer audio making its way into the gaming space because it's better for everybody.
Very good.
Next one. Abzu and the Pathless developer Giant Squid also revealed its next project titled Sword in the Sea. The aesthetic of this, the art style of this, like, I love me some Journey. I love what Giant Squid
Journey.
do. It's, Journey, where you're also snowboarding/skateboarding, pulling mad tricks in a half pipe on this floating hoverboard sword. I don't know if the sword will mean you'll finally be seeing some combat coming out from Giant Squid, or if it's just going to be more puzzles and exploration. But with a title like Sword of the Sea, maybe you're going to swing that sword once or twice, but it looked very, very pretty.
Yeah, the Pathless had some combat, but this, more than any other game they've done, just really has that Journey art style. So I don't know if that's, like, Journey was very popular. Obviously, it was a different time for indies when it released, and it was one of those probably first PlayStation indies to really soar. So I feel like the train's kind of moved on from these guys in some ways, but maybe it will bring some people back because it does look so much like that game that people might have some nostalgia for by now.
Yeah, I think you bang on. But yeah, it certainly grabbed my attention. The art style, it was very Journey, but now I can do mad tricks in a crazy half pipe on a sword blade. Let's do it. So I'm in. And something else I'm in for, JP, is the sort of demo slice they showed us of Resident Evil 4 Remake's VR mode, which is in development for PSVR 2. They didn't give us any dates as far as 2023, 2024. They're just saying it's actively getting worked on by Capcom.
Right.
But man, this looked scary and intense. And even though RE4 is more actiony, shifting it into this first-person view with VR will just get the heartbeat racing out of your chest. And I love as well, shifting into this VR mode, that they're not floating hands like you see so much in first-person shooters or first-person action games through virtual reality headsets. There, you can see Leon's arms are all connected. It's all one piece. It's not just floating hands. Like, the gunplay and the sword play in it looked really, really tight.
Yeah, I know that I think it was like a quest mode, a quest port for the original RE4 kind of hit like last year. Mm-hmm. Not for RE Remake, but yeah, the original they kind of ported in, and people were experiencing VR in that game for the first time, and that was very popular. So to see them give the same treatment to the remake, which is obviously a superior performing game, and the new bit of kit with the PSVR 2, I think that there'll be potentially, I don't know, do you think this could be a system, not maybe not killer app, but do you think this could sell a few units in and of itself?
It's funny because my PlayStation VR 2 pre-order got returned to the wild because I was overseas when it came out, and It got shifted out. Like, I obviously could probably find one anywhere at any store now, but I haven't had any incentive to pick it up because I just haven't seen any titles apart from the Horizon offshoot that still excites me. But this definitely makes me want to buy it. This makes me want to throw down some cash because Resident Evil 4 Remake was phenomenal in the traditional over-the-shoulder sense, but being able to experience this through virtual reality again, like, I'm just thinking of some of those boss battles and some of those moments, like, it would be terrifying with it coming at you right through the headset. So yeah, I think this will be the game that'll make me pick up my PSVR 2 finally.
Yeah, it's hard to think how it will work because there's so much movement and so much action in that game, whether it breaks part of it or makes you feel sick. But
especially like the boat scene when you're on the lake.
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of VR games, to be honest, so I wouldn't really have anything to compare it to. But from what I understand, often they will plant the player in the ground so that you can't freely roam around.
Yeah, not a lot of devs have nailed that secret sauce to get the movement fluid enough to make you not get motion sickness. Resident Evil 7 did that really well. with their VR port, and that was still some of the scariest crap that I've ever played. And I'm excited to do it all again with RE4 Remake. Just a couple of quick other scattershot announcements regarding PSVR 2. We also saw Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2 announced for later this year. Arizona Sunshine 2 was announced. Military shooter Crossfire Sierra Squad. End Dreams is Synapse, and also the Queen Music Pack DLC for Beat Saber, all getting a bit of a run there in a little mini PSVR 2 segment. They all look pretty good. I had some fun playing Arizona Sunshine 2 back in the day. I mean, Arizona Sunshine back in the day. Maybe I'll pick up Arizona Sunshine 2 on sale after I get my PSVR 2 when Resident Evil 4 Remake VR mode comes out. Who knows?
And you got the Village VR mode as well, don't you?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's like
indeed.
Capcom's doing all the heavy lifting as far as AAA games that are developing for PSVR.
They're just on a very rare run of form at the moment, Capcom. For many years in a row now, they've just been doing very good things. A couple other quick announcements here. So yeah, I mentioned earlier, Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean was showcased with a little bit of gameplay. Look cute, look whimsical, coming out next year. Gris Creator reveals Neva, which is coming out in 2024. The notes I wrote for this is, this game is definitely going to make me cry. It looked very endearing. It had this really cute, simple watercolor art aesthetic to it, and it just feels really wholesome, but also really heartbreaking. And I'm keen to play this when it comes out next year.
Yeah, Gris or Gree or however you pronounce it had that same thing to it. You know, very stylized, very emotionally. What's the word? I mean, it wasn't like it was a very narrative-driven game, but I guess it was drawing on emotional experiences and trying to elicit that sense of a heavy sense of the themes of the story and of the game. So I think that they definitely know how to pull those strings.
Yeah, this was one of the trailers that stood out for me. Like, I was hooked. The art style was so unique to everything else we'd seen up until this moment in the showcase. And yeah, it just stood out for all the right reasons. We also got confirmation that Towers of Agasaba, which is a Breath of the Wild-like title, it'll be coming out next year. Trailer looked fine enough. I enjoyed the sort of town building and like farming based mechanics in there. Like anytime there's a bit of a farming or a building sim to be had, and if they throw a fishing sim in here as well, it's like, yep, let's go. 3 for 3, take my money. Next one, Revenant Hill was announced, which is from the makers of Night in the Woods, and it had that very distinctive Night in the Woods art style straight away. I thought it was a sequel to Night in the Woods at first when we saw the little cat pop up. But that's coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 in the very near future. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is coming this winter, or / Australian summer. The anime weebie in me got very excited for this one. It had some cool little combat, had some cool moments, and I liked that the characters were voiced. And my notes were this is like, yes, gameplay great. The big hero ability push is awesome, and maybe I need this ? So, yeah, Grand Blue has got me. Ultros, which is a very colourful Metroidvania, coming next year. The art style, it was very acid trip, like Rick and Morty in space on random planet vibes, and it looked really, really cool and very memorable as well. It really stood out for me. Ultros.
Yeah, very saturated art style for sure.
Yeah.
With that bright neon green,
super psychedelic. And yeah, then we got to look at our Perfect Worlds Games Tower of Fantasy, which is another anime, Japanese animation inspired jaunt. This one didn't hook me the same as Grand Blue, but there was like Animecha going on. There was some gameplay. The worlds look pretty diverse and vibrant. So I'm like, I'll put it on the list of a game that I'll intend to maybe play one day. Also then got Firewalks Concord getting announced, and that's coming to PlayStation 5 and PC of next year. No gameplay at all for this, just a cool cinematic trailer set in space with some focusing on this ship that's degrading due to the speed of the ship going through, doing the Kessel Run in minimal parsecs. But yeah, it looked interesting. We also got some new gameplay trailer for Immortals of Avium, which is done by Ascendant Studios. This is interesting. It's like first-person Doom with mythological powers, but it just seemed really hollow and really basic to me. Like it was pretty in the abilities and the hand movement as they're casting spells all look cool. But outside of that, the world I just couldn't seem to give two craps about.
Yeah, it didn't move the needle for me, but I'm sure there'll be some people out there that dig the vibe.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's shift that tone. You're talking about those last couple of games not really moving the needle, but we're going to end this news segment with the games that were the true needle movers for us. And JP, I might throw it over you first. Maybe we can just go back and forth on these games here and add a bit of weight where applicable. So
sure.
The first needle mover from the PlayStation Showcase was
Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is definitely the biggest game that they talked about. It was the one that they gave 10 minutes to, or
got the final 10 minutes. It was the hero moment that sent everybody home happy after the showcase, and rightfully so.
Yeah, so they showed, I was complaining about this on Twitter, that they just show too much of these things for my liking, but it's kind of my fault for watching it. But they didn't even really give me a chance to avoid it, because there he is. He's in the spoilers, the symbiote suit, which I guess was predictable for this game since it wasn't in the first one. But I did feel like that could have been a big reveal in the game if they didn't show it in the trailer. But, what are you going to do? They love spoiling massive things in these Spider-Man trailers. We also saw that we very evidently get to play as both Peter and Miles, which makes sense, and we all thought that was coming. Pete's got the new symbiote moveset, and then Miles, even though he had his own unique moveset in the Miles Morales game, he's got a few new moves as well. So it is cool that we have it confirmed that you'll be playing as both. It's going to be single player, not co-op, as some people kind of speculated, which I never really thought was a possibility. There's lots of information still to come. Can you switch between those two at will, or is it based on story? I think based on the fact that Peter's wearing that black suit, we'll have to obviously get a section where Miles is probably going to battle against him when he turns a bit too far towards that dark side. So look forward to all the drama that we're going to get from this. It looks really good. I admittedly kind of skimmed through it because I didn't want to spoil more than what they already showed, but it was cool to see also Kraven the Hunter get the shine as possibly the main villain from what we can tell so far.
It's really great. That opening cinematic with Kraven where he's just hunting, I guess, various big evil bad dudes out in this jungle, and then it's all gotten too easy, and then one of his underlings has sort of said, "Hey, how about some new game to hunt?" And it shows the map of New York, and you see Black Cat pop up there, Lizard, Spider-Man again because of Miles and Peter. And yeah, it just sets this tone where there's going to be a lot of cat and mouse going on in this game. I was a little bummed that they did just drop the symbiote suit on us straight away instead of maybe keeping that for a reveal in the game, but it got everyone excited. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out, because the more you wear that suit, the more that you let the symbiote take control of you, the less nice you become, and that's even evidenced, and you can see the tonal shift with Peter and the way he's talking to Miles, and the lack of teamwork, and more of I'm doing this, I'm the man, to hell with everybody else, and he's smashing people up. He's very assholey and aggressive, which you see happen in the comics, you see happen in the films, you see happen in the game. So I'm keen for that, and I hope we do get a bit of Venom in Spider-Man 2, because Venom's always been one of my favorite Spidey characters. But the movesets, I like the diversity between Peter and Miles. Miles seems a little OP to me. The abilities that Miles has got, he can do just about everything. And it's going to be fun because it's going to feel like two different experiences. I think you nailed it where you said, when it gets to certain forks in the road from a narrative perspective, you'll jump from character to character. I don't think you'll be able to change at will. I'd say just with continuity of the story, it'll just be hard sort of stop-start points with these characters, but I'm excited for that. I even noticed the subtle changes where the UI is different for each of the characters. They look different color palettes used. Miles has got a bit more of his graffiti sort of aesthetic and vibe that he has, where Peter's a little bit more straight and narrow, so I like that. And even though in the trailer we didn't get a constant clean look at the Lizard or Kurt Connors, seeing the moments in that where there was sort of like some horror movie elements in it, where they're in the dark and they're trying to find Kurt Connors, then they find the skin that he shed, so he's gotten even bigger, and he's becoming almost like Godzilla-like in his appearance. Like, it's cool, and the game just looks smooth. I love that the world is bigger as well. We're getting just outside of Manhattan, and we're going to be exploring other boroughs. So it's going to be cool to see this larger world, and just the web slinging. It is so, like, anyone that's played these games knows how fun it is, but it just looks even better now where they've got sort of these like wind points where you can sort of glide and just fly through at pace instead of having to web sling everywhere. Like, it looks so good, JP, and I can't wait for it to come out this year. 2023, fall of 2023, it's coming out. So, you know, Q3/Q4 of this year, we're going to be playing Spider-Man 2.
A little frustrating to not have a release date, like the fact that we're less than 6 months away from this game releasing. Well, we're kind of like three or 4 months away from this game releasing, right? And we still don't have a month. They couldn't say coming, you know, September.
I'm going to say October. I'm going to say October is my guess.
But I guess, you know, that it is better for that to be the circumstance rather than putting a date out there and missing it. So no one likes that. But yeah, what about yourself? What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, the next one, if we're just going to go through the list here as we've got them put down as far as the notable heavy hitters and highlights, obviously Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, the remake that has long since been rumoured out in the wilds there for many a year, has now officially been confirmed. We got a nice little slow roll CGI-based trailer where there's a few nods to the original sort of opening of the game, and it leads to us seeing old Big Boss coming out of the jungles. He was probably just hiding from Kraven the Hunter previously because it looked like the damn near the same jungle that Kraven was just hunting in. But the trailer looked good. We didn't see any gameplay. I know some of the internet's a little bit up in arms about why didn't they remake Metal Gear Solid 1 first? But it's like, if anything, if we're going to go chronologically, this is the right way to do it. So you can experience the origin stories here of Big Boss and then jump into the other games following on. So I'm keen for this. Like, we saw no gameplay, but the CGI trailer certainly looked pretty.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, let's just say it's cool that it exists because it's been wanted for so long. It's not the game that needs remaking the most. I think that's probably one of the frustrations, is that the HD collection version of Snake Eater still is very playable compared to Metal Gear Solid 1, which is kind of unplayable because it still has the fixed camera and it's not even available on modern platforms until later this year when they bring those original 3 to PS5. So
yeah, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 confirmed it's going to have Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater coming to PlayStation sometime this fall. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, even just to get those games with trophies for a lot of people will be a huge joy. I mean, I'll definitely be replaying Metal Gear Solid and trying to platinum. Hopefully it has a unique trophy list compared to sometimes they have like one for the whole collection, which is frustrating. But something like the Mass Effect trilogy had the 3 trophy lists separate to each other. So I hope they go that direction. My really pie in the sky hope was that they would announce a remake of the NES Metal Gear and its sequel Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. That's been a long desired thing for me because I just know that it could be really cool. It'd be a new story, like a new game with a story that's fleshed out from obviously the more stripped back, 8-bit or whatever you want to call those NES games. But it is still part of that lore of Solid Snake and Grey Fox and the Colonel and Big Boss and all that stuff. So it's sitting there, it's canon. I'm just waiting for someone Konami to realize that it's a no-brainer. But for now, chronologically, I'm still holding out hope that they go Snake Eater, Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 4. But a boy can dream.
That's it. It's interesting too because this game is called Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. It's not Metal Gear Solid 3. There's a little delta symbol where the number 3 would be. So this is a bit of a soft reboot as far as the next gen versions of these games, and it's kind of cool because players that haven't experienced those original games get to start from the ground up as far as that origin story. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this. The one thing I did notice though is the trailer. You could see it was very lacking Hideo Kojima as far as his artistic styling and his uniqueness to present things on screen. Still was a cool trailer, but it did feel very lacking in that Kojima uniqueness and magic, you could say.
Yeah, it does feel a little strange to be doing this without him, but, you know, it's happened in the past. Star Wars did okay without George Lucas. Not to say that him and Kojima are equals, because I think that's a very clear difference. But yeah, I really wish that they gave us a line of dialogue, just one line, you know, kept you waiting just to see that whether it's David Hayter playing.
Yeah, or Kiefer. We were talking about this offline. Is it going to be Hayter or is it going to be Sutherland? Who's going to be voicing Mr. Snake here?
I think it would be a huge, like, you know, we don't know who's making this game is the other thing. Like, it didn't have a Konami logo on it. They haven't announced anything. I think the rumor was that Virtuous was working on the game.
I heard they were working on it with Konami from what I read somewhere.
Regardless, you know, Konami, especially the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 debacle with Kojima's exit, it was a big thing. It was a big, like, controversy against the studio, and it would win back some hearts and minds if they could put David Hayter back in that position, I think.
Yeah, I'd be very excited and hopeful for that. So what about you, JP? What else did you get excited and hopeful for from this showcase?
It was cool to see Alan Wake 2 is coming on October the 17th. We knew that the game existed, and Remedy's, it's, you know, their follow-up to Control, and we saw Alan Wake in some of the Control DLC. So seeing a bit more of this trippy Twin Peaksian story / Stephen King horror-esque vibes, it's it was just cool to see that this game has gone with that similar, familiar, but still very very dark and you know, taking it into a new direction, I think.
It looks so good. This was one of my MVPs of this showcase. The aesthetic and the vibe, where you can see they're clearly trying to lean more into the survival horror elements of this game and doing it really well. And I love that we're getting a contrast between playing as Alan Wake, who's going to be trapped in the dark place, and then we're going to be also in the boots of Saga Anderson, who is an FBI agent, sort of wandering around through these woodland-based areas and stuff. So we're getting two different experiences, two different universes and worlds, and I'm assuming different enemies and play styles. So I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out, but it looked great. It looks all kinds of creepy and messed up, and it's going to be giving me the heebie-jeebies come October the 17th. Obviously, there's been some hubbub on the internet since the announcement of that release date today, where they've also turned around Remedy and they've said that we're doing a digital-only purchase of this game. There's not going to be physical versions of this game available upon release. And you know what? I can go either way on this. Like, I know some people like to have a physical product on their shelf to collect, but I also like that this is not only going to keep the cost down of the game, so it's going to be a little bit more accessible from a price standpoint for consumers. And the world's a digital currency these days. I prefer to have my games digital. It's less clutter, less space getting taken up, and the game's still going to run the same. So yeah, I've got no skin in the physical versus digital war here, but the internet clearly did.
Yeah, it's interesting for such a big game to do that. It's usually the indies that tend to steer away from physical copies. But even then, inevitably a game sells well, and they'll do a limited run physical edition. So I fully expect that at some point they go limited time only. There's like 2,000 copies of this that you can buy, and people will snap them up and put them on eBay, and it'll become a collectible. So that's kind of what I expect. I don't know why they wouldn't. Like, yes, it's cheaper to not have to do any physicals to begin with, but I think if you can kind of bundle it into some kind of collectible, then that's not gonna it's gonna be less production cost, but what you get back when you sell that is gonna more than make up for it, I think.
Yeah, I saw one of the quotes from one of the figureheads at Remedy saying one of the reasons they didn't want to do it also is because they didn't want a consumer buying a disc and then on day one having a big giant ass patch to have to download as well. They wanted to try and streamline that process, which I don't think is a deal breaker, but people smarter than me, Remedy made that choice, and that's fine. I'm just excited that Alan Wake 2 exists and that it's coming out in like 5 months' time because it looks great.
So do we think Control's inevitable sequel will be digital only? Is that kind of what they're hinting at? Because,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be the new norm for Remedy.
We'll see.
Something else that we saw at the PlayStation Showcase was Dragon's Dogma 2 getting a juicy new trailer, and we also saw a ton of gameplay in said trailer, which was great. We got to see a heap of new monsters, the expected dragon, which is no doubt going to steal your heart as these cunning bastards always do in this Dragon's Dogma world, but it looks really good. This is the first new mainline Dragon's Dogma game in a decade, and aesthetically it looks great. Capcom are doing all the right things here. It's getting built on the RE engine, so the character models, the combat, the companions, all of the good stuff there with Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm very excited. I like that we see a lot of diversity in the races, in the playstyle, where you can play warrior style. You want to be a bit more magey and spellcastery. You can tailor your experience to suit. And yeah, give me all of the high fantasy, JP. Let me slay the dragon that is inevitably going to steal my heart again.
Yeah, this is a funny one for me because I've not played Dragon's Dogma and I was getting it confused with Dragon's Crown. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty different from the first one. And it's a completely different franchise. So
yeah, it's so great, Jono.
Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma is really good. Like, it's very, very enjoyable. You should definitely give it a spin if you've got some time in your very busy, constant schedule, because yeah, I really, really enjoyed Dragon's Dogma 1 way back when, and I feel I'm really going to enjoy the number 2 when it's coming out back into this year, next year, because it looks great, and yeah I'm going to hack and slash and cast all the spells.
I had similar feelings about this as I did about Phantom Blade Zero, where it's like, it's always hard to tell from a trailer how it's going to feel to play. So I was watching it and I was like, is this going to feel like The Witcher? Is it going to feel like that? Or is it going to feel like a Bethesda game, or is it going to feel like Ghost of Tsushima? Like, it's hard to tell what, whether they're going to pull off what they're shooting for, I guess. But I'll be keeping an eye on the reviews, and that might determine whether I give it a spin or not.
Yeah, and by memory, I haven't played it since I rolled credits the first time on Dragon's Dogma 10 years ago, but The Witcher is probably a good comp as far as the sword play and the casting and stuff. They synergize really well, and it feels good, and it's mapped well on the controller. So if that's a little bit of a hook for you, yeah, give it a go when it comes out. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Sounds good.
What else you got?
Well, we've talked a little bit about Bungie and that acquisition from PlayStation. This will be their first game that's exclusive to PlayStation, I'm guessing. Marathon, which I didn't realize was one of their first games that they released in 1992. So it's a remake of sorts. It's going to be a first-person shooter. It's got a very interesting art style, and I think a lot of people are excited about this. Very excited, because Bungie has this pedigree for that kind of game, and knowing that it's PvP focused means that I probably will be less inclined to check it out. But it's cool, I guess, just from like an industry perspective to see PlayStation getting something that looks like it's going to be a pretty... it's a game that's going to stick around for a long time, just knowing that it's Bungie. It's not something that's going to just come and go.
It's going to move some units for sure. And yeah, like when it first popped up, I remember seeing Marathon. One of my friend's dads, when we were kids, used to play the original Marathon on their computer way back when, and I remember seeing it then, and then it was just out of my memory for the better part of 2 decades, and now here we are again in 2023 with this sort of follow-up that Bungie are doing, and we only got to see a cinematic trailer, but man, this cinematic trailer was stunning. Like Bungie, their art team make cool more, like they do more cool things from an aesthetic standpoint than most studios do. Like they just know how to make things look awesome, and they've sort of really perfected that science fiction-y source where you're getting some animation in here where there's mixtures of muted palettes with crazy neon and bugs and AI and droids and all this kind of stuff going on. Like it is just super cool, and that's what this trailer was for me. It just oozed polish, and it oozed like awesome it factor. Yes, we didn't see a second of gameplay, but the trailer was enough for me to get hooked and get hyped and be very interested to see this game when it comes out in the near future. But yeah, PvP and /PvE mechanics in there, so I wonder if they're going to be dipping a toe in sort of some of that Destiny-based archetype there and broadening their wings, but also keeping it familiar in that way from a Bungie perspective. But this is what PlayStation want to do. This is one of the main reasons I feel Bungie were acquired. They want to get into that live games as service type of model, and Bungie do it better than most. So here's the first cab off the rank from Bungie, and yeah, I'm keen. It looks stunning. I am very, very, very impressed by that trailer.
Yep, it'll be cool to see. Hopefully some gameplay the next time they pop up and show their faces.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not a game that's going to come out in like 2027 or something. I hope it's sort of a little bit closer as opposed to years to wait. But a game that we did get a nice chunk of gameplay was the Plucky Squire, which is the little indie that could. It feels like this indie has got a lot of hype and momentum behind it. It's such a unique concept, and this trailer just doubled down on that, where you're transitioning between storybook into a real world house or living room or bathroom, or just a living, breathing environment. The character models are great. The combat looks fun. The puzzles and just the platforming looks fun and interesting. And it's just super, super smooth. Like, I know I just mentioned polish on that Marathon trailer, but this trailer / the mix of trailer and gameplay, super polished. This game looks fantastic, and I can't wait to jump into the world of the Plucky Squire, hopefully sooner rather than later as well, because it looks so good, JP.
Yeah, it does. It looks so fun. Like it's got the two distinctive art styles from the 2D on the page of the storybook to jumping out into a 3D space. We saw that kind of a little bit in like Mario Odyssey. There's like a level where you flick between the 2D old school Mario and the 3D version. And there's probably been a couple other instances where it's been done, but none as stylish as this. It's so reminiscent,
right?
Yeah, it's distinctive and reminiscent of children's storybooks in such a fun way. And seeing some of those mechanics where you strike the letters, the words on the page, and it changes the environment around you. That's very fun and cool and quirky. It is, as you said, a little indie that could. I was kind of diving into this a little bit and seeing that the art, one of the main guys there was the art director on Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Oh, nice.
And the other key figure at the studio is based in Brisbane. I actually saw him at PAX at a Devolver Digital panel talking about how to pitch games to a publisher like Devolver. So cool to see an Aussie. I don't know if they're an Aussie studio or just there's an Aussie as a key part of that studio, but it's cool to see that regardless. And I think Devolver might have another great little release on their hands.
I think so. I think this game from everything I've seen so far, it looks like it's going to be a hit. Like, it will be one of those indies that just pop up. Like, I'm not going to say out of nowhere because it's been showcased now for 12 plus months, but I think once it is finally released, it is going to review well, it's going to play well, and it's going to win a lot of awards because it's so unique. It's a pop-up book that's turned into a video game, and yeah, I can't wait to run around with Jot, Violet, Thrash, and Pip, the lovable band of misfits. JP, the last piece of hype that came at us from the PlayStation Showcase was?
The last one I want to talk about is Arrowhead's Helldivers 2. This was great, I think, because not only is it a sequel to Helldivers from 2015, but it's a completely different genre. It's not common that you see this for a sequel to go, you know, the first one was top-down, kind of isometric, almost kind of Age of Empires, like moving around the screen of your Helldivers as they battled the aliens and you sent them out on missions and tried to achieve your goals. Now we've got this full co-op action shooter. It's 3D. It's, you know, it looks a lot more AAA. It looks like they took their profits from the first game and put them straight into making something bigger and better, which is pretty brave to see. It's not easy to switch styles and switch art styles and switch gameplay styles, and they've done it, and it looks pretty good to me. We'll see how it pans out, but yeah, coming to PS5 and PC this year, that's a good win for PlayStation, I think, to get this one.
Yeah, it looked great. Like, this is the second trailer of the showcase, and it looked fantastic. It started with this interesting cinematic where I thought, is this another Starship Troopers game coming out of nowhere? Even though the RTS game just came out, a couple of weeks ago or a month or so ago? I'm like, what, more? I'm not sad about it. Like, sign me up to be part of Rico's Roughnecks. Let's go. But it looked great. I haven't played Helldivers 1 at all. And yeah, I know there is some big differences and some creative changes here, like you touched on, JP, but I think they've done it all for the right reasons. Like, this game looks awesome. I love this sort of third person shift from that isometric from in Helldivers 1. And the fact that we've got some co-op action shootery action coming our way this year, like, this is something I think you and I need to play together because it looks like it's going to be bonkers. The amount of variety in the various alien races that you're tackling across the galaxy, awesome. I like the chaos. I like the violence. I like science fiction. I mean, like, this was just like, they served me a bowl of this up and I was just like hoovering it down, big old spoonful after big old spoonful. Like, yeah, Helldivers 2 looks sick. Like, I cannot wait to play this later this year.
Yeah, bring it on. That might be one of the rare times I get online to play with some friends.
Yeah, you're going to play Fortnite before this, but yeah, Helldivers 2 will be the next one. But we're going to quickly pivot straight over to this because it's bang on with the topic at hand.
Tweet of the week.
And this tweet comes via way of @Xbox, and the tweet reads, "What a good-looking group, sunglass emoji." And then what they've done is they've taken the art for 12 of the games that were showcased in the PlayStation Showcase and fired this tweet into the sun a matter of minutes after the showcase ended, highlighting, 12 or at least, just under 50% of the games that were shown, that they're also making their way to Xbox. And the biggest one that made me go, wow, is the fact that Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater is making its way to Xbox on there too. Can you imagine if Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater is day one on Game Pass where you've got to pay for it on Sony? Like, can you imagine that type of flex?
Oh, yeah, that would be a very big deal.
Yeah, but it's nice to see a lot of the games that we've gushed about here making their way to both consoles, so you've got a bit of freedom of choice there. But very, very sneaky, very, very clever by Microsoft or by Xbox. And as you mentioned before we recorded, it is a bit of damage control. It is a bit of look what we've got coming. Like, look over there. Don't worry about Redfall and the other lack of exclusives right now, but look at all this stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit like trying to steal PlayStation's thunder. The ironic thing, I think, is if Xbox had held a conference today to show off all the great games coming to Xbox, most of them would have also be appearing on PlayStation.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there are games that they're working on that are exclusives. We're looking forward to Hellblade. We're looking forward to, you know, Starfield and whatever else. But PlayStation, as we're about to discuss in our overall views of the conference, they held back a lot of their big-time exclusives that we know they're working on. So it was, an interesting one. I have to just kind of make a correction to myself. I think I said Talos Principle was exclusive, and it and its sequel are both on Xbox by the looks of it.
That's okay. We can't be right all the time, JP. Yeah. The listeners are very forgiving. They know that we can be a bit fast and loose with the truth sometimes, but we mean well. But yeah, JP, what was your overall rating? What's your temperature check on this PlayStation Showcase? Like, this is the first big event they've held in a very long time.
It is.
Do you think they delivered? Do we want to rate it out of 10 or a Metacritic score? Do we want to give it a letter? How do you want to score this thing? The metric is yours.
I want to give it a letter. I think there's two kind of judgments that I can give. One is the objective. Sorry, I'll start again. There's two kinds of approaches. There's the personal, what it does for me. Does it move the needle? Does it excite me? And from that perspective, I give it a B-. We've just talked about the games that excited us the most. Probably a fraction of the ones that we talked about before that would be ones that I'm looking to actually pick up at some point. But I think as an objective observer that just looks at the diversity and the breadth of what was revealed, that was a lot of games. And I think
25 of the buggers.
I feel like it was even more. I think there was. I heard something in the 30s, but maybe you're right, maybe they're right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It's a lot of games, and there's something there for everyone. I think I'd give it a B+ overall. And I've got reasons, like, there's always people that will say it didn't do this, it didn't do that, we didn't see this, we didn't see games that we expected. I'll start with the negatives, okay? We didn't see much gameplay footage. We saw some.
No.
We saw it for a few key titles. We saw it for Assassin's Creed and for Spider-Man and a couple others. But most of the games, especially the new ones, we just got cinematic trailers. We didn't get updates from the big anticipated projects that we know are out there, like Wolverine, like The Last of Us Factions. They were two things that people were probably most hopeful of before the show, and we didn't even hear them mentioned. We didn't get a lot of exclusive releases. There were some, but as the Xbox tweet showed, a good chunk are also going to be coming to either PC or Xbox. And then we missed on seeing what's happening with some of the biggest PlayStation studios. We didn't see Naughty Dog. We didn't see Santa Monica, Sucker Punch. We don't know what Bluepoint's doing. We don't know what Ben's doing. We don't know what Media Molecule's doing. We don't know what Housemarque or Team Asobi or London Studio are doing. There's a lot that I think people were expecting to get updates on that just didn't happen. So they are the negatives of the show, and that's what a lot of people have focused on. But I think if you are going to be the glass half full kind of perspective, they revealed a bunch of new games for the first time, including studios that haven't had PlayStation releases before. So Haven's first game, we got to see the first Bungie release as an exclusive. They showed some really great indies, including the Night at the Woods and the Plucky Squire. Like, some of that's new, some of it's not as new. But giving a spotlight to indies at a show as big as this, I think, should be applauded. We got to see the new hardware with the controller and the headphones. A significant update on Spider-Man 2, which is probably the biggest PlayStation game that's coming out this year. And I think that overall, whether or not those many games they showed are exclusive to PlayStation or not, they got them at their conference. That means a lot of people will associate those games with PlayStation. Whether or not they follow Microsoft or Xbox on Twitter and saw the snarky tweet. A lot of people miss stuff like that. They just see the IGN version of the breakdown of what's coming out and they go, oh, I can pick it up. I can pick up all these games on PlayStation. There's a reason that they want to show these third-party games because, there's a reason that Call of Duty signed and Activision, before they were purchased by Microsoft, would sign these big deals with PlayStation to have the PlayStation logo at the end of the trailer because people will associate it with them, and that's a win, whether or not it goes on both consoles. So like having Alan Wake associated with PlayStation is not only a big win for PlayStation, but it's almost a loss for Microsoft because it has that history with the console. And I think a lot of, especially like the hardcore like console wars Xbox fans would be pissed about that because that's their game. You know what I mean? So the fact that we missed on a bunch of those massive studios that didn't show what they wanted to see as much as I wanted to see them, I think from a competitive standpoint, it kind of makes sense that PlayStation can hold those back as bullets in the chamber. They can wait until
TGS.
They can wait for these big shows, or they can be even more strategic and be like, we've got some bad news about to come out, or we just released a dud game. Let's get the news cycle back on how great we are. Let's fill a gap in a quiet release window where we're not releasing anything for a couple of months. Maybe Microsoft's getting a bit of momentum. Let's show one of our games to kind of suck some of that away from them. So I think like I understand why they didn't show everything all at once because they managed to put on a pretty good show without having to do all that. So that's probably my glass half full take on what they put together. It's always weird to judge these things because you're looking at it from the perspective, as I said, there's what it does for me, then there's the objective observer, and then there's like the strategy behind maybe what they were thinking about hiding certain things that they haven't gone public with yet. So that was my take. I don't think it was the huge L that some people said, or that it was completely mid, as some people said. Could have been better, but it was certainly not like a waste of time, which, let's be honest, a lot of the times you watch these conferences and it feels like, okay, I could have just watched one or two trailers at the end and been just as happy.
Yeah, I will not say that it's mid. I will say, as far as my scoring metric, it was fine. The THG or 8-bit means of measurement there, where, yeah, if we're going to translate that to a letter score, it probably does come into a B or a B- overall. I think there was some big swings and some big misses. I think Spider-Man and then closely behind it, the Metal Gear reveal were probably the two MVPs, and there was a bit of Daylight, and then there was your Alan Wake and a few others. But then there was also some weird ones, like you mentioned, the over-reliance on trailers as opposed to gameplay was a little upsetting. I wanted to see a bit more gameplay, but then the gameplay that they did show was great. So it was sort of propped a lot, like some of the weaknesses were propped up by the strengths of certain demos that they showcased. So there was some good and some bad there. There was some interesting decisions with like their Project Q handheld we talked about, which I just don't understand. The earbuds look cool, but overall, like, yeah, I don't regret the hour-ish of time that I lost watching this. There was some really cool things that got me hyped, and like, as the listeners would have just heard, we've been sort of deep diving on this showcase for the better part of 50 minutes, and we've talked far more positively than negatively. So overall, I think it was a good experience. Sony have this stuff down to a fine art. I feel that Jim Ryan could potentially double as a rich villain from Taken or James Bond, though. Every time I see him on the screen, I'm like, I don't really trust you. I get a bad vibe from you. You seem a bit shady. But like, outside of him, Sony, what they're doing for the most part is leading to success. Like, they're outselling the Xbox like 3-1. Like, you can't debate the sales figures. The trajectory that the PlayStation 5 is on is extraordinary, and it's great kit. And yeah, they didn't bring out all their heavy hitters for this showcase, like you said, JP, because they didn't have to. They're so far out in front.
It's like a defensive play almost.
Yeah, like they just played a safe game here. I think overall this presentation was safe. There was some big moments. Some big moments are also nothing moments. Like that Metal Gear reveal was great, but it was nothing in the grand scheme of things. It was just a pretty trailer, but yeah, that's what people are going to get hyped for, and I'm still very much excited now to move into the summer of gaming, or the winter of gaming for us here in Australia, where we've got Game Fest and a whole host of showcases from Xbox and other notable developers and publishers. So it's going to be a good couple of months. We're going to be eating well for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And there's going to be a whole heap of reveals and things showcased that we're going to be happy about and confused about. So bring on the next couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people also lose track of the strategy behind promoting your game. Like, it doesn't make sense always to show gameplay the first time around. It makes sense to tell people that the game exists and to give them an idea of the art style. And then in the media release that follows, we can announce the genre and whatever else. But, think about like Death Stranding. The games that have the biggest hype behind them, they start with maybe a logo, and then there's a little bit more. It's the foreplay, isn't it, Brendan? It's
but Kojima's a law unto himself with that. Like, he does these reveals and slow burn showcases for years and years. Like, but he can get away with it because his name's attached to it. Where I think some of these other studios, it gets to the point where you're just like, stop taking the piss and just show us something. Like, I get that you've watched a really great art house indie film and it's really impacted you and how you want to present yourself, but come on, get to the punchline here.
There's a balance. There's definitely a balance there to be found. And I think most games that have a high budget will go for that cinematic trailer first before they go into gameplay. Sometimes we get both. When Ken Levine's game Judas was shown earlier this year or last year, we did get, it looked like sprinklings here and there of some gameplay in there, and that was a really great trailer. But it leaves, from that PR perspective, it leaves another bullet in the chamber to go, okay, we've got a few more rounds to just continually build the hype until we're ready to do a deep dive and show a lot more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But yeah, listeners, what was your feelings on the PlayStation Showcase? Hit us up on the socials or via our Discord with direct links in the show notes of the episode below, because we'd love to hear from you. And tell us your thoughts, good, bad, or otherwise. But if you don't want to wait until probably 2032 when Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater comes out, don't worry, because we got you covered.
New releases and events.
As far as other podcasts coming out this week outside of this episode of The Hungry Gamers, we've got another new episode of More Than Hentai, which we are going to focusing on the global juggernaut that is Attack on Titan. And I am joined by my good friend Sam, aka Quartz TV on the Twitters. As far as the big screen, connecting that web thread, you could say, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming to cinemas this week, JP. I am hyped as all heck for this one. It is going to be a hell of a ride. And then as games, we've got Shikari, A Colorful Tale, Company of Heroes 3, System Shock, the remake making its way to PC, Etrian Odyssey Origins Collection, Killer Frequency, Skatebird making its way to PlayStation, Street Fighter 6 dropping on everything, Super Mega Baseball 4, and We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie making its way to everything as well. So a huge assortment of games, both old and new, coming to the stores this week.
That's a lot. Spider-Man's probably the thing that stands out the most to us, I'm guessing. I have to find some time to go and check that one out. It's I'm kind of sick of watching the trailer, to be honest, because it's like
everywhere. It is everywhere. It's in Fortnite now too. Like we've got a Spider-Man collab going on in Fortnite where you can get the Miles Morales skins and other things.
I think it must be playing on KO when I'm watching like the NBA playoffs as well, because I don't really watch TV. I'm just wondering, where do I keep seeing it? So it must be that. But I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to watch it and be blown away, because I'm sure that it will deliver, if it's anything at all like the first Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm actually going to the movies on Monday as well to see an advanced screening of The Boogeyman, which is the new Stephen King film making its way to the cinemas as well. So I'm super keen to check that one out. That's going to be a good time. So plenty of things to see and do this week, and plenty of things to update you all on episode 329 of THC. But JP, thanks for stopping on by. Thanks for joining me here in the studio while Miss Ali rests and recovers and keeps doing her thing. But we'll be back again same time next week for some more Hungry Gamers goodness. JP, anything else you wanted to mention or shout out before we get on out of here?
No, just the spoiler cast. Check that out if you have played Jedi Survivor and want to hear a couple of guys chat all about things and forget characters' names.
It's a great listen. As I said, I listen to it front to back because I edit it, and it's a fun, smooth listen. The first half or the first 33 minutes, if I can remember right, is spoiler free, and then after that, it's full deep dives on the narrative and the plot points and whatnot. So if you haven't played it, or if you have played it and you want to just get an outside influence on what other people thought and see if you're in alignment with that, check it out right here on the Hungry Gamers RSS feed. But yes, that brings us to the end of THG for another week. You can find myself on the socials at Brendan8bit. You can find Jono at Jono himself. And you can find us all as a whole at We Are 8bit. But until next time, 8bit Nation, much love.
Stay hungry.
You've been listening to The Hungry Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.